Right, okay, hello everyone. My name is Niall Crabtree, and I am the game designer for Food Time Battle in Space. And this video is going to be probably quite a long one, and it's going to be like uncut and just like almost like a Let's Play video. I haven't done a Let's Play video in quite a long time, but yeah. So this is my upcoming game, Food Time Battle in Space. It's going to be on Kickstarter from February 2nd until like March 2nd or something or other. I know it's running for 28 days, so I think it'll end. Yeah, March 2nd, that's about right, actually. So running for the whole month, and yeah, so the Kickstarter is just to be able to get the funds to be able to make this game a reality. But especially with lockdown and COVID, the best way for me to have play tested Food Time Battle in Space from the beginning of development, which was in around December of 2019 to now, was to make a tabletop simulator version. And this is a version you can download yourself. You can go to the Steam Workshop, search Food Time Battle in Space, or I'll put a link in the description, and you can go and download it yourself. If you're watching it on this video on the Kickstarter page, and I do plan on putting it on the Kickstarter page, then just go to, I think it's, there's a big banner on the Kickstarter page where you can click the link below it and it'll take you straight to it. But anyway, so this is Food Time Battle in Space, and I'm going to be running through every single restaurant. There are 4 restaurants in the game, and I'm going to be breaking them down, talking about my design process for them, and just talking about the game really, and because it's just something I'm really, really passionate about. So I thought, why not make a really long video about this game? So yeah, on the there's already a how to play video on the Kickstarter and on my YouTube channel for Crab Studios. So if you want I think it's 12 minutes long, just a blitz through the rules with a little bit of detail here and there so you can really understand the game, because it's quite a simple game, then that's there for you. But for, right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly run by the very, very basics of the game so we can get into it and so you kind of understand what I'm talking about, and I'll go through a few bits of terminology as well. So, first thing I'll talk about is this. I'll just do the terminology. Well, first of all, you need 5 stars in order to win. You need to be the first to 5 stars. It's a 2 to 4 player game. You need to be the first to 5 stars to win. You win via completing these critic cards. Sorry. So there are 3 levels of critics: level 1, level 2, and level 3. On the cards, there are the amount of ingredients you need to place down in the correct order, which is sequential order. The amount of stars you get for completing them, so half a star. Remember, you need 5 of those stars to win. And this is the amount of luxury ingredients. It's not just regular ingredients, but luxury ingredients you need in order to be able to gain the ability at the bottom of the card, which is kind of what the main topic of the video is going to be. It's going to be about all the different abilities which you have, because that is the main difference between the 4 restaurants, is the abilities you gain. You have the chef card, which is an ability which can be used once per turn, whilst the other abilities can only be used once. But if we have a look on the chef card, the second ability is to refresh a critic ability. So even though these can be only used once, you can use the chef card to use them again. And then finally we have the ingredient deck. This is the deck that you're going to be interacting with most at the start of your turn. Once you've done anything that you need to do with regards to abilities, if you want to use any abilities before you start drawing, you always draw up to your hand size limit, which is 3. So you draw 3 cards, and then you place them down in sequential order, and then you draw 3 more cards. And that's the trick. See how this goes 4, 7, 11? Because this 11 is the highest number in the sequential order, and I do not have a 12, which is the highest number in the whole deck, then I cannot place any of these down, because you have to continue the sequence. That is the crux of the game, and that's where the risk taking and the planning and the pushing your luck comes into play. That is why the abilities are the most important thing in the game, and that is also why that is the main way restaurants differ. So I'm going to run through each restaurant. I'm going to start off with Luna Burger, because I'm already here. So Luna Burger, which is a deck that is actually described quite well on the Kickstarter, because I just chose a deck and was like, okay, this is an example which I'm going to use to try and get people to understand that this game is very simple and it has quite a low price tag, and the art is very cartoony, so you kind of think, oh, there's not very much to this game, but I really wanted to show that there is quite a lot of depth to each deck, and each deck is very meticulously designed to work really well together and be really satisfying. So, with the Luneburger deck, like with most decks, well, almost all of them, there are a couple where you probably, I think, maybe the Jalapeno deck is probably one where you don't necessarily want to do this, but for all the others, you really want to go and try and complete all of the level 1 critics to begin with, because once you have a bunch of abilities, then you can use all these abilities in conjunction with each other. So right now, say if I completed all these 4 abilities, I'd be on a full star, because there are 2 half stars and 2 no stars. The reason why these aren't worth any stars is because, you know, you draw 3 ingredients, so you're guaranteed to complete these. It's just whether you get the luxury ingredients or not is like determining whether you actually get the abilities or not. So if we have a look at these 4, in fact, to demonstrate how difficult this game can be if you don't plan ahead, let's try and complete this level 9 critic, this level 3 critic, which requires 9 ingredients. If I do complete it, I get 2 stars, which is insane considering I just completed 4 cards and only got 1, and this is only 1 card and I'll get 2. So very high value. But let's try and complete it without using a single ability. 1, 8, 11. Cannot place any of these down. I failed. Let's try that one more time. Watch now, I complete it. Like, I think the highest ingredient, the critic that's ever been complete is a 7, and that was just out of complete sheer luck, and that was without using any abilities, I must say. Oh, this is a very good start, actually. 1, 3, 4. Oh, there we go. So I would have completed a 6 ingredient critic, which is still very lucky, very lucky, without using a single ingredient, but nowhere near that 9. So let's now instead look at what these abilities do and how they can really help me. Now, this is no guarantee that you actually definitely be able to complete the critic ability, the critic card, sorry, if you use all these abilities, but it does increase your chances very much. So if we have a look, we have, if your hand size limit is smaller than 3, everyone's default hand size limit is 3, remember that, so can't use this card currently. If your hand size limit is smaller than 3, increase your hand size limit to 5 for the rest of the order, which is very good. Draw ingredients until you reach your hand size limit. In the game, one of the core rules is that you cannot draw any more ingredients unless your hand is empty. That's why I've been placing all my cards down before I draw any more, because you cannot draw ingredients until your hand size is empty, unless you have this card which says draw ingredients until you reach your hand size limit. So say if I use all 4 of, say I use this card and I have 5 cards in my hand, say I play 4, I can then draw back up to 5, which is so powerful, because then say that other card in my hand was a 12, I don't have to put that down, even though because it would be really bad for me. Now this one is what makes this card so good. Decrease your hand size limit by 1 and decrease the ingredients required for the order by 1 for this turn. Now if you think about it, not a very good card on its own, not a very good card at all, because you're decreasing your hand size limit, which starts as 3, so it would be 2, which is even worse, but on the upside it does decrease the ingredients required for this order by 1. Now what I would be doing is I would be decreasing this 9 to an 8 if I was to use that card, or this 7 to a 6. And this final one is one that's not massively to do with hand size. As you've noticed, all these cards are to do with hand size. That's because each individual restaurant has their own sort of like thing, like they have their own mechanism that they focus on. Luneburger is hand size, Tranquil Sushi is discard, Mozzarella is drawing, and Jalapeno is playing cards. So the actual action of playing them, you can manipulate that. But this card says if you have not completed an order, but if you have completed an order, sorry, but have not used enough luxury ingredients, remember you need to have the right amount of luxury ingredients in your order in order to be able to gain the ability as well, and not just leave it in the deck. Then you still gain the critic perk if you use this. Yes, there's actually a spelling mistake on that card. I updated that for the physical version, don't worry. Anyway, so let's now have gone through the explanation of these cards. I'm going to try and complete this level 9. I might fail. That is still possible. It's really beneficial to try and get some level 2 critics as well before going for these level 3 ones, because they are really quite difficult. But what I'm going to do first is, before I'm going to go for the this critic, because you have to before you begin. I'm going to decrease my hand size, which decreases this to an 8 as well. And then because my hand size is less than 3, sorry, and I get to use this card and increase it to 5. And when you use a card, you turn it sideways, because you cannot use it again unless you use the chef ability to refresh. Right, okay. So now I am going to drop to 5 straight away. Right, okay, this isn't quite, this is alright actually, this is quite a good start. So what I'm going to do is I am going to place the 1 and the 3 down. So I need to get 8. The 1 and 3 is placed down. And I'm going to be picking up 5 again. So one of the great things about having only 12 cards as your ingredient deck is because you can know exactly what's in your ingredient deck. There's only 1 of each number as well. So if I place down the 6, then I will draw 3 more cards and I will have 5 total in my hand. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place down the 6, and then I'm going to use this one, which you draw ingredients until you're at your hand size limit again. So I draw 3 more because my hand size limit is 5 due to this card. Okay, so I have, unfortunately, I have a 5 in my hand. So I can't place that down because I've just placed down the 6. But I can still place down the 7, 8, 10, and 11. But if I place down those 4 with the 3 that's already placed down, I will not be able to complete the order. However, if we have a look at my chef card, one of the abilities is to draw an additional card. This could be risky because what I need is there's currently, if I do my maths correctly, there are 2 cards in these 4 cards which I desperately don't want. I do not want a 2, and I do not want a 4. I would also not want the 5, but I've got the 5 currently in my hand. So there's technically a 50-50 chance of me being successful with this order if I use this card. However, what I can do instead is I can place down the 7, the 8, yeah, I'm going to place down the 7 and the 8. So in that deck, there is a 12, there is a 9, there is a 4, and there is a 2. And I can draw. What I can do now is I can use the second ability. So I'm not using the ability to draw an additional card. I'm going to use the second ability, which is to refresh a critic ability. I'm going to use that. I'm going to refresh this card again. So this card is back up, and I can use it again now. And so if I use it again, I would then draw. So I have 2 options. And one of them is much better, I've just realized. But let's just run them down, run them through first. So what I could do is I could use this now to draw 2 extra cards back up to my hand size limit, which is 5, again because of this card. Or I could play the 10 and the 11, which is what I'm going to do because I just realized that's much better. And then I draw 4, which is my entire deck, so I'm guaranteed to get the 12, which I need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember, this isn't a 9 because I used this card, which is decrease your hand size limit by 1 and decrease the ingredients required for an order by 1 for this turn. And I complete it. And so what I do is I get 2 stars. If you note, I did not have enough luxuries to gain the ability, so instead it just goes to the bottom of the deck and I get a new card to try and complete. And that's kind of the beauty of this game, is that you use all these all these critic abilities. Should have turned that sideways when I used it, sorry. You use all these critic abilities that you can get quite easily. I mean, like 3s, you're guaranteed to complete them, but getting 1 luxury isn't too difficult to do. 4s are slightly harder, but not too bad. And you get this little engine, you start building it up, and when you get some like level 2 cards in there as well, and you can start using them all together, and you can do some really, really cool things if you plan ahead and think about what your turn is going to be like. And despite the mechanisms in this game being so simple, it can be really, really rewarding when those pay off. You think that you can't do it, it's really difficult. How are you going to get 9 ingredients out of 12 ingredients in the correct order when you're only drawing 3 at a time? Well, you can use these cards to really, really help you. There are other cards in the deck. We'll actually just go through them all right now. We'll go through every single card in each deck, I guess. Yeah, like I said, this is going to be quite a long video. So if you have more than 3 cards in your hand by the end of your turn, you may use this card to force an opponent to discard a full star. There are quite a few cards in this game which allow people to discard full stars and half stars. These are quite brutal, so make sure you're playing with the right type of people before you do it, because it can get quite vicious, because it's so difficult to gain stars. But also, you really need to focus on winning yourself. So this card is quite an interesting thing to highlight, because if we looked in my hand previously, because I drew up to 5 and I played down 1 card, I had 4 more cards still in my hand. I should have kept the cards in my hand actually when I did that. So I would actually be able to use this card to not only have just gained 2 stars by completing that critic, I can also take 1 away from someone else. Yes, I would not be very popular at all if I did that. So we also have decrease your hand size limit to 1, not by 1, for this order, and refresh 2 other critic perks. So this is actually really good. This is actually the example on the Kickstarter. But say, for example, I decreased my hand size limit to 1 by 1 for this order, and decreased this to a 7, and then made it a 5. What I could do then is I could actually decrease my hand size limit again to 1 and refresh this card. Say this one was dead as well, I could refresh this one as well. So I've refreshed 2 cards, and then I could use this to make it a 5 still. So I've gotten 2 uses out of my hand size being less than 3. This card is very, very important to the success of this deck. What you need to do is you really, really need to focus on, even if it's more difficult to get the luxury ingredient whilst doing your turn. Say like you're doing some, like you have to like overkill with some abilities just to be able to get the luxury ingredient. You really need to focus on this card. It's very important. So is this one, but this one can benefit from so many of these cards, especially the level 2 ones. Level 2 is very important for hand size as well. Next we have the decrease your hand size limit by 2 for this order. You may force an opponent to discard half a star. Yet again, another card which can be used in conjunction with this one to just increase your hand size limit to 5, but still have great effects. This one, if your current hand size limit is 1, you may force an opponent to discard half a star. This one is very good in conjunction with this card. Increase your hand size limit by the number of stars you have for this order. This one is very good to hold on to and not really use. I say not really use because when you have a bunch of cards, and say you didn't have this one, it is very difficult to get your engine up and running again if you're just going to keep using them. So I always recommend to save a couple of cards which you don't really want to use right now and save them for later, because you need to kind of keep your core engine up and running and use these really special cards when they best suit you. So yeah, increase your hand size limit by the number of stars you have for this order. Very good when you have 3 stars, 4 stars, even just 1 star. It's still quite good. But yeah, and finally for the level 2 critics we have, however many cards you had left over in your hand last turn, decrease how many ingredients you need to complete 1 order for this turn. Again, could have used this with 4 cards in my hand to make this 8 just to 4. Super, super powerful. As you can see, a lot of the level 2 cards don't really need to be used. I mean, they need to be used in conjunction with other cards to be like super powerful, but some of them are just very, very powerful on their own. And that's why, even though it's important to get these level 1 critics, and then it's also super important to get these level 2 critics because of how many stars you gain, these level 2 critics, let's say level 2, I meant to say level 3 for these. These level 2 critics are very, very important just because of how powerful their abilities are. Finally, we have level 3. Level 3 abilities are a weird one because it's very difficult to get all 3 luxuries in your order, and when you do complete these cards, it's usually when you're closing in at the end game. So it was a bloody bugger to playtest, I will say that, because it was so unlikely that they get these cards and then use them in any meaningful way. Well, let's just read them anyway. So add the amount of ingredients left over in your hand last turn to your hand size limit for this turn. So that's another good one. And this one is change your hand size limit by any number you want. So quite freeing. But then change your target's order ingredient requirements by that much. This card is very, very good with regards to trying to get as many luxury ingredients in your hand as possible. So say you still had like a 4 for some reason they hadn't completed, but you had this card, then you could change your hand size to 8, so it requires a 12, or change it to like a 6, so it requires 10. And then you're more likely to get that luxury that you need, say for this one, than if you only drew 3 and then drew an extra card up, for example. So yeah, that is the Lunar Burger deck. Let's move over to Tranquil Sushi. Tranquil Sushi is, I mean, my favorite is jalapeno, just because I like how funky it is. Like, it's a really funky deck. Tranquil Sushi is quite similar though. So let's do the same thing and try and complete a difficult critic with the 4 starting critics here. Say I've completed all these 4. I'm on a 4-star. I'm on top of the world, and let's have a look. So this one is this deck is all about discarding cards. Discarding isn't putting it on the cooking station here. It isn't putting it at the bottom of the deck. It goes into its own separate pile. So with this one, we got discard a luxury card. Increase your hand size limit by 2 for the rest of the order. Now, as you can see, some mechanisms cross over. This one increases your hand size limit, but the main thing about it is that you have to discard a luxury card. So first of all, you have to have a luxury card. This one went through so many heaps of alterations. It used to be super powerful. It used to be discard all cards in your hand and decrease the amount of ingredients required by that much, or discard any number of cards you want. So if you're trying to complete a 6, this is 6. Nope, this is 6. Nope, is this a 6? Nope, is this a 6? Yes. So say you're trying to complete a 6, you just draw 3 cards. Oh, it went over to that side. You draw 3 cards, you discard them all, and then it becomes a 3, and so it's an automatic completion. The problem is that it was very difficult to get any abilities because you oftentimes be discarding luxury cards. So yeah. Actually, that has brought up a good point. Let me actually just change seats to red. There we go, just so I can get my hand in front of me. So yeah, with this card, it actually says, discard all cards in your hand and reduce the number of ingredients required to complete the order by 1. So instead of the amount of cards you discarded, it's just 1. But discarding all cards in your hand isn't too big of a deal because you didn't just draw 3 more. So it is essentially like use this card just to make a card from a 6 into a 5 or from a 8 into a 7, and it doesn't really change much unless, for example, you draw 3 luxuries or something silly like that, and then it can be like, maybe I don't actually want to get rid of 3 luxuries because then there's no chance of me being able to gain the abilities. With this one, discard 2 cards and draw a new one. This one is very, very simple. It's one of the first cards I came up with when coming up with the different cards for the game. It used to be discard 1 card and draw 2 new ones, but that became too powerful. This card has always been the most powerful deck until we've got it up to a very, very nice place now. And drawing used to be the worst, but then it threatened to be just massively overpowered because of the changes I was making to it. This game went through about 4 months of playtesting, 4 or 5 months. And there were so many changes. I'm going to do a blog post one day talking about the changes. But anyway, in this one, add the last 2 discarded cards back into your hand. So this is important to note because it's important for 2 things. One, you can discard cards and then you can get them back, which is very, very powerful. But also you need to take into account and consider the order in which you discard cards, because that can be very, very important. So yes, anyway, let's try and complete a 8 with, I don't need to go through the whole rigmarole of showing you how difficult it is to complete an 8 with no abilities, so I'm just going to, do I need to do anything first? No, I'm going to draw 3 cards. Oof, that is not a good start. So, first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to discard a luxury card and increase my hand size limit by 2 for the rest of the order. So I'm going to do that. So I know that 9's on the bottom now. I'll put it face down so I don't see it. Then, what I could do is, so my hand size limit is now 3. I know that. So what my hand size limit, sorry, is now 5. Sorry for the misspeak. I misspoken. So because I discarded a luxury card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discard all cards in my hand and make this 8 a 7. So I've done that. And then what I'm going to do is, because my hand is empty, I must draw. Right, I get no luxury ingredients. Wow. So it is a 7, and I currently have 5 cards in my hand. Now, what I could do is I could... No, okay, well, the best solution is to just use this card and get 2 cards back from there. So I added the last 2 cards I discarded back into my hand. Like that. And then boom. 7 cards. This card is really, really fun to use because it can look like you don't have enough cards, and then all of a sudden you just go to your graveyard of ingredients, essentially. Maybe the recycling bin, who knows. And you just complete it, you just whip it out, and it's just really, really good. I would not get the ability for that, so I'd eat that over there, put that there, and boom. Another 2 stars for me. Again, it is very difficult to get the abilities for these level 3 ingredients. So let's put those all back. Put those like that. Again, you need to take into account that despite how powerful these are, you need to make sure that you factor in the taking a turn to refresh 1 card at a time. However, I will tell you a rule now. I've been trying not to mind flood everyone watching. If you choose, which you can do, to not attempt to complete an order during your turn, it is actually on this section of the rulebook here, where it says, it's right in the middle of the page on the left hand side, where it says refresh critic perk. But it says refresh 2 if you choose not to complete an order that turn. So if I choose not to complete an order, I can use the ability just to refresh 2, and you get your engine back up and running very, very quickly. But that does lose you an entire turn of gaining stars. But if you're going for these level 3s, then it doesn't really matter. So yeah, anyway, let's go through the rest of the cards in this deck. We're starting to pick up a bit of pace now. We're nearly half an hour into this video. I knew I'd be talking forever. I just love this game. It's one of my... I've designed a lot of games, and it's probably my joint favorite game that I've designed. Another one I haven't announced yet, but it's just so satisfying completing these cards. Just so satisfying. But yeah, anyway, by the end of your turn, if you have more cards in your discard pile than you have stars, force a player to discard a star. Now this card is very, very much, I wanted a few cards in this game like this, very, very much a catch-up card. So it is very, very difficult to have more cards in your discard pile at the end of your turn than you have stars, because not only at the end of your turn are you more likely to have more stars than what you started off with because you completed orders, but also it's just very difficult to get loads of cards in your discard pile. You can get quite a few, but it could also be a hindrance to your overall turn. So this card here is mainly for people who are at like no stars or 1 star or 1.5 stars. Say they like failed an order. Each time you failed an order, by the way, you lose half a star. I should mention that. So say they failed a few orders, but they've got their engine back up and running now, and they're raring to go, and they get loads of cards in this card pile. They can use this, and they can focus on the player who's about to win, for example, and just make the game that bit closer. So I do like that card. Discard as many cards in your hand as you want and refresh that many critic perks. This can be insane because it is essentially a refresh 3 critics per turn. But you also have to make sure to refresh this card. So that's quite powerful. But also, say if you use it in conjunction with this card, you can refresh 5 critics. Very, very powerful, but you have to make sure to plan it correctly. And this one, discard the top 3 cards of the ingredient deck, then your hand size limit becomes 5 for that order. So this is just discard top 3 without looking at them, so you have no idea what they are, and then you carry on as normal with 9 ingredients in your hand. Now, but say you have no way of getting those discarded cards back, it's going to be very difficult to complete this level 9 because there's only 9 cards in the whole deck. So if you discard even 1 more, then it's actually impossible to complete it. So it's definitely something to think about, for sure. Have I gone through all the cards there? That doesn't seem right. Oh no, here we go. If you currently have 4 or more cards in your discard pile, you may force a player to discard a star. And if you have discarded all of your luxury cards, add as many of them as you want back into your hand. That would have been very nice before if I had discarded 2 more, because then I could get all 3 back. Very good for when completing a level 3 critic. For every luxury card you have discarded this turn, force 1 player to discard half a star. So you could force a player to discard up to 1.5 stars, very insane, and then get them all back if you use them 2 together. Very, very good. Finally, we have these 2. If you have discarded more than 4 cards this turn, you can add the top 4 of those cards back into your hand. Very, very good. So it's essentially just an upgraded version of this one, except it has a prerequisite of having discarded 4 cards. Well, this one is whether you discarded as many cards. Like if you only discarded 1 card, you can still use this one. If you have no remaining cards in your ingredient deck and haven't played enough cards to complete the order, use this card to complete the order. So, that example which I was saying before, where say I had, well, it wouldn't really work with this card because this card, I need this ability. But say I was trying to complete this one, and I only had 7 cards in my ingredient deck, then let's say for example I played 2. I played 2. Now let's say I played 3, and I had let's say I played 4. I had 3 cards in my hand. If that happens somehow. Say I use my draw and an additional card on that turn for my first hand. So I had 4 initially. Let's put them down in actual order so I don't confuse anybody. Like that, like that, like that, like that. Okay, and then these 3 cards in my hand. Then I will have no remaining cards in my ingredient deck, and it is actually impossible to complete this order, so I can just use this to complete it. Very nice. So yeah, all very useful cards. The main what's super good about this deck is that the starting engine, your level 1 critics, are very, very powerful. Anyway, jalapeno time. Let me move myself again. Hopefully enjoying the video, by the way. This is actually very therapeutic for me to go back and look at all the cards individually, because I do analyze quite a lot when I'm playtesting, but I mainly analyze based off wins. So if I see a deck that's getting a lot of wins, then I look at each individual card then and be like, okay, which cards can be nerfed, which cards can be buffed. When I'm playing, which cards annoy me, which cards are like, oh, that's really cool, I wish I used that, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's been a while since I've done that, because with development on this game ended about maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. That's when playtest. No, it would be over 2 months ago when playtesting ended, because that's when I sent the review copies out to reviewers 2 months ago. So yeah. Anyway, so I didn't really want to make any changes, because then they'd be misrepresenting the product essentially. But yes, let's have a look at these 4 cards, and then let's attempt to complete a 9. Okay. Playing is probably the one where I'm most likely going to fail, just with the base engine. Like I said before, that jalapeno is probably best to try and complete some level 2 critics as well before you start going for level 3. Anyway, so if you have 4 or more ingredients in your cooking station, which is the playing area for this order, use this card to swap any or all of them with cards from the deck. So essentially, you just get to swap them and place ones you actually want from the deck down. So it's quite useful. So even if you place down a 12 for your 4th one and you're going for like a 7, it's not game over yet, because you can swap them out from your deck with this card. You must use this card before you draw at the start of your turn. For the rest of your order, all luxuries count as 2 ingredients. This is so powerful with this card, because if you don't have a luxury, you use this as a start your turn, and if you don't draw any luxuries but you place down 4 cards, you can just get the 3 luxuries out of the deck, and then all of a sudden, instead of having 4 cards down, you technically have 7, because luxuries count as 2 ingredients. Very, very powerful. Now this one was as a result of people getting so frustrated with the 12 ingredient card. Luckily, sorry about that. Luckily, in this video, we haven't really encountered the dreaded 12 in the first hand. But yeah, it does happen. It happens quite a bit as well. I mean, it's like a 1 in 12 chance. In fact, it's a 1 in 4 chance to draw a 12, because you draw 3 cards from a 12 ingredient deck. So this card essentially just allows you to put those back into your hand. But let me just run through an example here. This is why when I say, for example, draw 3 cards. I didn't draw a 12. Yes, this actually works anyway because I can use it. So let's say I play 3 ingredients down. You think, okay, there's an 11 in the cooking station. I'll use this card to put it back into my hand. But because there is a card in my hand, remember the rule, you can only draw new ingredients if your hand is empty, then I have to play this before I draw new ingredients. So instead of using that now, you draw 3 more. Oh, this is actually perfect. It isn't actually perfect, but I can use this to put this back in my hand, and then I can play a 10. So I can play, because there was an 11 down there, but because I picked it back up, the highest number is now only a 6. It isn't an 11, so I can play down the 10, 11, and 12. So without picking that 11 back up, I would not have been able to play that 10. So very, very important. So yeah, I just wanted to show you why it's so important to remember about the rule of you can only draw when your hand is empty. Anyway, so let's go through the last one. Until your next turn, if any player doesn't play any more, if the player doesn't play more ingredients than you did this turn, they lose half a star. If you get this card first, if this is the first card that you draw from here and you complete it, use this card instantly, because it immediately changes every other player's perspective on their turn. Because they're not just thinking about, okay, what cards do I go for? They think about, how am I going to make sure I place down more ingredients than whoever's playing this deck? So that's a really, really cool card. It's focused around playing. Like, all these cards are focused around cards that you play. And it's just, I think I'm a big fan of it because it just changes the game so much. No other card in this deck, in this game, really changes the game as much as this one. And that's why I really like it. But anyway, so let's attempt to complete a level 9 with these 4. It's going to be quite difficult. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it on first try, but I'll do it a couple of times, see if I can do it. But yeah, so first of all, I'm going to do this. So all the rushes count as 2. And then I am going to draw 3 cards. So I will play these down. Will I play these down? Nope, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my chef to draw an additional card now. Okay. I'm going to play these down. And then I'm going to use her. First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 3 more cards. Okay. That's fine. That works. Okay, that's actually really good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this 10. And then I'm going to choose to... I'm not sure I'm actually going to be able to complete this. We'll see. So I'm going to choose to swap the... I'm pretty sure I failed. All right, let's just swap search and get the 2 luxury ingredients out, like that. Oh, I'm getting the call. 1 second. I'm just going to quickly reply to that. I'm not going to edit this. There we go. Yeah, this is I'm just trying to make this like a bit of like a raw thing. So we got these 2 cards, 9 and 11. Let's say I swap them with the 8 and 10. So these go back into the deck and then shuffled. 9, 11. Then technically I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And unfortunately, I don't actually have any cards which can help me complete it. What I really needed from these 2 cards was I needed 2 cards which can be placed higher than that 7. I did not get them. So let's attempt to complete that again. And you would fail 1. That is fine. I'll do this one more time. So, again, use this card first. I'm going to go for the 9. Draw 3. Okay, I think that's a much better start. Wow. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. So that's perfect. I cannot believe that. So, wow. Right. So I got a 1 and a 3, which is the only two cards, which would make me fail this order. So let's try that one more time. I'm determined now. I'm going to choose a new approach. Draw 3. 3, 4, and an 8. I am going to use this card to draw an additional card. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I am actually just going to use this one. So instead of gaining a luxury, I'm going to use this card to swap this 8. Search for a 1. And I'm just going to put the 1 at the beginning, and I'm going to put the 8 back in the deck. There we go. So now I have a 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a very, very good start. Okay, 9, 10, 11. So how many is that now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. There we go. So it just took a different approach of me just trying to get the 4 cards initially, placing them down, and then changing them straight away before I drew more cards. That's where I was failing, was drawing more cards before I was ready, pretty much. So that's another lesson in, like, making sure you do things in the right order, really. So yeah, that is the Jalapeno deck. Let me just have a look at these cards, these additional cards, the level 2 cards. So when you play an ingredient, use this card to change its number to one of your choosing. This, by the way, this does not make a card a luxury ingredient, but you can change the number. So you can say, like, instead of it being a 12, it is like a 1 or something. This one, if you have ingredients in your hand that are lower than the ones already placed, you may slot up to 2 into the right place. Very, very, very powerful. So say, for example, when I had that 1 and a 3 in my hand, I could use this card to slot up to 2 of them into the right place. You can play additional ingredients to complete an order, and for each one you do force a player to discard half a star. So in the rules, you cannot place down any more ingredients than what is absolutely necessary to complete the order. But with this one, you can use it, and you can do so. Use this card at the start of your turn. Disregard the numbers on all luxury cards. This is very good in conjunction with this one and this one, because you can just literally place luxury ingredients wherever. And luxury ingredients are 7, 9, and 11, which are all really high cards, so very, very useful. Like I said, these cards, these level 2 critics, are probably the most powerful level 2 critics in the whole game. And that was bad design. I just wanted a one deck. Jalapeno is probably the most different deck out of all of them, and that's why I love it so much. It's probably the most difficult as well, only slightly, because I did play tests and get a lot of feedback and a lot of statistics as well, and all the win percentages are sort of average. But I win most, essentially, when I play this deck. I just love it so much, and I just love the pushing your luck side of it. If you have played 6 or more cards during this turn, you may force a player to discard a star. So yeah, this card is actually really difficult to use because of this card. You can complete orders without playing 6 ingredients, just because of the 3 luxuries that you place down equal 6 ingredients. But you can use it in conjunction with this card to place down as many ingredients as possible, and you can use that card quite successfully, actually. In this one, if you have played 3 cards this order and have not played a luxury ingredient, increase your hand size limit to 6 for the rest of this order. Very, very good. All very powerful. There we go. And we have these 2 cards, which are: use this card to bring any ingredients into your cooking station. Yeah, sorry. I thought there was a typo there, but it's just the way I phrase it. Use this card to bring any ingredients in your cooking station that are numbered 6 through 12 back into your hand. So it's essentially just a upgraded version of this one. No, it's an upgraded version of this one, sorry. The 10, 11, 12. This one's 6 to 12. and decrease the number of ingredients required for an order by the lowest number of cards played by another player by the time it is your turn. So if you have this card in your deck here, in your army of critics, then you can just pay attention to which is the least amount of cards played and then use it, which is super powerful. So all these cards are all about cards, but all about playing cards, whether it's you or it's an opponent. This deck probably has the most interactability as well, like interaction between players. So I really like it very much. Finally, we move on to the drawing deck. Probably the easiest one in the game because it's quite simple. It's just all about drawing cards. Very, very simple. But let me just stick my star. I like sticking my star on there, even though I didn't put my... In fact, no, that's a crime. Let me stick my 2 stars here. Sorry for coughing. So here are the 4 cards. Draw additional cards equal to the number of luxuries in your hand. So this can be quite amazing. Say if you draw 3 luxuries to begin with, so you can just draw 3 more cards. Place any number of ingredients from your hand back into the deck, shuffle, and redraw the same amount. So if you don't like all 3 cards in your hand, you can put them back into the deck, shuffle, and redraw the same amount, so draw 3. If you only dislike 1, you can put 1 back, reshuffle, and redraw that same one. This card was changed quite a lot, and it was mainly down to it just was redraw your hand initially. And people didn't like that because there'd be 1 card, say like a 1, if they drew a 1. If you draw a 1, you really want to play it because there is no card that can be lower than a 1. But they might have a 1, 10, and 12. And like, okay, I really don't want that 10 and 12, so they have to reshuffle all of them. And that's just not very nice. So I changed it to this. Reduce the amount of ingredients required for the order by the number of cards in your hand that exceed your hand size limit. So yeah, your hand size limit is 3. Say if you use this card with 3 luxuries, you'd have 6. So then you reduce whichever card you're going for. Say you're going for this 9 by 3, because 6 minus 3 is 3. There's a difference between 3 and 6 is 3. So you make this a 6. So these two are very, very good together. And this one's also very, very good with these two as well. This one had a lot of changes to it. Draw 2 new cards, but increase ingredients required for the current order by 1. This started off life as just draw 1 additional card, and people were like, why would I use my chef ability to refresh this card when I can just use my chef ability to do the exact same thing as this card, which is draw an additional ability. So I made it, okay, draw 2 new cards. Whoa, way too powerful. Just that 1 number change, just that from 1 to 2 made it way, way, way too powerful. So then I added a little negative to it. Increase requirements for the current order by 1. It's quite good. Say, it's still quite good. It's quite good anyway. But say, for example, if you're trying to complete a 4, it's very good because then you can essentially guarantee it. Well, you do guarantee it because you draw 2 new cards, so you get 5 and increase it to a 5. But also in doing so, you increase your chances of getting a luxury because you're drawing 5 cards instead of 3. So yeah. Anyway, with all those 4 done, let's try and go for this 9, shall we? It should be relatively easy. Saying that. Forgot to change where my hand is. Change colour to blue. There we go. And let me just put those cards back into my hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that 9 into a 10. So I'm going to draw 2 additional cards. I really need luxury ingredients. And then, am I actually going to do it? Yes, I am. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something a bit mental. I'm going to refresh this again, and I am going to... what's this happened? 1 second. Oh, there we go. I don't know what happened to my recording software then. I'm going to refresh this again, and then use it again to draw 2 more cards and make this an 11. This is quite fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, still no luxuries. So it's an 11. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in my hand. So what I can actually do, instead of using this card at all, draw additional cards equal to the number of luxuries in your hand, I can just use this to make this become a 7 as well, because it's an 11 currently, and I have 4 more cards in my hand compared to my hand size limit, so I can just use it to make it into a 7, and then I can just complete the order. So very, very powerful with just 2 cards. That was quite insane. And then I wouldn't complete it with a luxury though, unfortunately. So let's actually take these cards back into my hand and let's try and complete it with all 3 luxuries, because that is also a goal which you really, really want to strive for. Not just stars, but also getting as many luxuries as possible. So instead of doing that, let's instead, firstly, draw additional cards equal. No, I'm gonna yes, to try and increase my odds as much as possible, I'm gonna draw additional cards equal to the number of luxuries currently in my hand. So I draw 1 more card. Oh, it's a luxury, very good. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this card to redraw all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. So I'm going to do that, put them back in the deck. There's a high chance I'll get some of them again. And I redraw, and I draw 6. And there we go, got all 3 luxuries. Then I use this, and then I place them. I place the 6 cards, which I need now because I have 8 cards in my hand. So 5, 6, 8, 7, 9, 11. Wait one sec. So 11, 8. So I need to place down 6. So I need to actually do this right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need to actually make sure I place down all the luxuries. There we go. Beautiful. And then I complete the card and I gain the ability. So yeah, that's all the decks. Let's just quickly run through the rest of the cards in the drawing deck, though most people usually just stick to these 4 because they are quite very powerful. But yeah, let me just do that there and do that there. Let's have a look. So draw half, rounded up, the number of ingredients required to complete the current order. That's very powerful. If you have drawn 4 or more cards this turn, look through your deck and play a card in any position in your cooking station. If you have drawn 7 or more cards this order, force a player to discard a star. If your ingredient deck is empty, force an opponent to discard a star. It can be quite easy to do so once you have a lot of cards. If you're attempting to complete the most difficult order during the game so far, so that 9, but you have to pay attention to what other people have tried to complete. Use this card to draw 3, very powerful. For every ability you have that is fresh, draw an additional card. So this card is kind of like the opposite of the whole deck, because it's all about using a lot of cards to get a lot of ingredients, and a lot of them are going to be dead a lot of the time. They're going to be stale. So this card won't be massively good, but if you choose to focus on using this card, it can be so powerful. Say you just refuse to use any of these cards, and then you use this one, then you just gain 5 cards, which is just so powerful. That's just 1 away from being able to complete a level 9 by itself with 3 cards already in your hand. Next we have stop a player from using the chef ability, draw an additional card for the rest of the game. So if you get this card, if you see that card, this card, try and get it as early as possible. So then you can use it pretty much every turn to just slowly make it so that chef ability is worthless. It is the only card in the entire game that affects chef abilities, so quite powerful. Use this card at the start of your turn if you successfully complete an order without using any other critic perk. Force a player to discard a star. And that's it. So that's the game, really. This card is really good. Sorry, by the way, if you see it here, then it might be a really good idea to not complete one of your level 1s, because then you can just easily complete level 1 and force a player to discard a star. But yeah, that's it. That is the game. It is very fun. It's exciting. I love playing it. Even just playing it by myself, then I got really excited when I completed orders and when I used critic abilities in the right way. And I just wanted to make this video just to show off how different each deck is, because that might not come across on the Kickstarter, because there's only so much information I can put there without people just getting confused or overloaded. So I thought I'd do this quite a long video, nearly an hour long, just to go through every single card in the game. But yeah, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. I have been Niall Crabtree from Crab Studios, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.